Renovation is the #1 way of boosting your home value and therefore your wealth. Now, maybe it's your first renovation, and I totally get it. I've been there. It's overwhelming, right? There's so much choice, and with so much choice, you might make some beginner mistakes. Now, look, I invested about $40,000 worth of renovation into my first rental property. A little bit more if you're including short-term rental furnishings and extra features that you don't need for a long-term rental. I've been through the mill, but just after a few months, I actually got the property reappraised, and it reappraised for over $100,000 more. And the best part for you is that you don't pay any tax on this, right? It's unrealized. Until you sell it, it doesn't matter. This is fantastic. And in this video, I'm going to break down and share some tips from myself. I've been as a professional investor for the last almost a decade at this point. So I'm going to share these tips with you, these best nuggets that I've actually learned over that time. So we're going to start looking at flooring and then some light bathroom and kitchen tiling and hardware tips, as well as pulling back the curtain and showing you guys some improvements you can make along the electrical dimension, right? It's not as scary as you first may think. Things like light fixtures, right? Some of these tips, again, they're all there to really maximize the return on your investment. You don't want to spend too much. So without further ado, let's get straight into flooring. All right, guys, we're here in Lowe's, and I really recommend this quite a lot. This is Whistler Oak. It's a really nice color. Now, you can get laminate or you can get vinyl. This particular thing here is laminate. Laminate is water resistant. It's not waterproof. And really what you need with something like this is an underlayment. So when you get this, what you want to do, right, pro tip right here, can knock these off, is you get something like this Pergo Gold. So you put this down underneath, and what doubles up is this is a moisture barrier. And what happens is that when you put this underneath, it also makes it a lot quieter. So when you're walking around, you're not hearing that tat, 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 tat. As well as that, if you've got multiple floors, the last thing you want to hear is the noise. Because when you got carpet upstairs in most places and you have like these floors downstairs, but if you want to do the whole place in laminate, again, we're talking level 3 rental at this point. So if you got a short-term rental, or if you want to do a long-term rental and you're thinking 40 years, one and done, yes, it's more expensive than basically just staining or varnishing or just going back over your actual, your wooden floors. But if you're going to get a lot of traffic, this is definitely going to be something that's going to last. So you want to think of that. Now, why am I saying going here to Lowe's? Well, the big benefit of going to Lowe's, if you go and you get the credit card system, you sign up for the Lowe's for Pros, you do it right, you can get up to about 25% off. At least it starts at 10%, goes to 15%, get into the right programs, gets 25%. So you're going to get more high quality stuff like this here in Lowe's. Do check the numbers though, run the numbers for Home Depot, run the numbers for Lowe's, and see what will end up being cheaper. But in general, you will pay more money in Lowe's by and large, but the percentages are much better. If internal noise is an issue in your rental, then I found stair treads just like these fantastic. Perfect for when the kids are running up and down early in the morning, if you've got echo or noisy floorboards, and you can even cut them with a Stanley knife or box cutters if you've spiral or awkward staircase yourself. Now, if you've got a lot of traffic, then you might want some area rugs or carpets that are kind of noisy. I actually find that like the carpets themselves they install can be a bit more expensive, so going with area rugs can be better, especially those again kind of maybe salt and pepper or anything that's really noisy, just to kind of show less dirt, to hide the dirt a little bit, especially with short-term rentals. You may want to have runners that are thin for the hallways and area rugs for other areas. All right, so here we have a good Adair blue area rug, soft feel. It's also quite noisy, so the noise basically hides a lot of the dirt. Right, so it's going to last a little bit of a long time. So if you can really do this, this is probably not a level 1 rental. This is more like your level 2, level 3. So if you're thinking about maybe doing some kind of short term, or you want to cover a floor that you've just done, this would be an excellent one. Again, try to mix and match a little bit. Like if you're doing multiple things, you're going to look for runners that are going along. But this one here is pretty nice. Yeah, it's all up to you, your personal style, but something again this noisy, that should work. Moving to kitchens, backsplashes can really add value. and housekeepers find them way easier to clean. This is really good for short-term rentals, but just be careful here and everywhere else in renovations that you don't want to overspend, right? So what you want to do is go for the cheapest price point. Okay, whatever that cheapest price point is, come up one notch above the cheapest price point. That's how you get your return. If you spend too much, your cost goes up and you really want to see the profit. Again, we're not going for like slumlord, the very cheapest. We're coming up one notch. Above that, you're really not getting much return. And, unless you're doing absolute luxury rentals or luxury short-term rentals, it's not worth it.
Here we got this nice Tavish Nero black tile. What you want to do here is think about something really glossy, right? Glossy, because if you don't have a glossy, it actually will, a lot of things will stick to it. So the matte finish, even though it might seem good right now, when you're doing a kitchen, you really want to look for the glossy type. That really works much better than the regular matte.
Now in bathrooms, I've found that this tile looks absolutely incredible. I mean, sure, the 3D look, it's harder to clean, but it looks epic in photos. It came in a few years ago and I think it's still quite popular. Now moving on, hardware is one of the best returns on investment in terms of cosmetic enhancements. I absolutely love hardware. It costs very little. I mean, you can do most of it yourself, and typically the jump in your home's value exceeds the cost of hardware. And speaking of hardware, I really like the Delta Porter brand.
Okay, so now we're in the hardware aisle. Now what you want to do is you want to try to find as close as possible to match. If your home is brushed nickel, so we're looking for something like this. If it's brushed nickel, you want to match brushed nickel. But if you're looking something like a bronze or like an oil rub bronze, things like that, you want to match like that. It's got dark black, that kind of stuff. Just have it matched as much as possible. Then you end up getting everything. This is kind of like what we did essentially with all our properties, is we basically put in this kind of stuff here, this oil rub bronze. And it can be really cheap. You can do a whole house like this, right? Even with the doorknobs, etc., for less than $1,000, but you'll get about $3,000 in terms of equity appreciation. This is one of the lesser known ways of boosting the value when you have someone coming in to do a HELOC or a refinance, etc. Really good little trick here. This is a really good way of basically boosting values, getting these little pieces like this. Now, sometimes you've got to order them online. Sometimes, it can be cheaper doing that way because you can be going around quite a while. So make sure you have your numbers. Big pro tip, always order more than you think you need, because the last thing you want to do is have to go back to the store to get more. It's better just to put everything in, and then at the end you've got 30, 60, 90 days depending on the actual policy at the time to return them and get money, because Home Depot are great at giving your money back. They're really easy to deal with that way. So again, get more than you need. Big pro tip.
Door hardware is definitely one of the best ways of increasing your home's value. What really people are touching or seeing or smelling, right? Cosmetic. That's what you want to focus on. It's the cosmetics that really count for boosting your home's value. Okay, so electric is one of my favorite, and it shouldn't scare you. It's one of the cleanest of the trades. And even when you're doing something like a cosmetic renovation, you might find that there are some small electric improvements that you need to tackle.
So sometimes if you're working with some contractors, you might be helping them out going into places like this. So it's good just to kind of get used to it after a while, like getting some electrical boxes. Again, some are for new work, some are for old work. It depends on whether the house you're actually doing it brand new or you're going back in. Depends on what they're looking for. A lot of conduit here. These are really good for external garage electrical work as opposed to internal work. Now, you've also got down here some cord management, good for home cinemas, good for doing stuff that's actually cheap. It ends up being more expensive because you're like basically hiding things over the wall as opposed to inside the wall, but it can get you out of a niffy jiffy there sometimes. Over here, let's see, we've got some indoor extension cords. Just get yourself used to Home Depot. You'll be living here a lot if you're going into the fixer-uppers. All right, here we go. So we're looking here at lights. We're looking here also at certain other fixtures, little basically cover plates. If you have, for instance, your Ethernet cable, your LAN cable, it could also be over here, some more lights, different ones, different wattage. It's actually good if you can to use these LED smart lights, especially if you're paying for the utilities. If you've got more furnished rentals and things like that, you want to have high wattage as high as possible. Just look what the old lights are going to be like in terms of the amount of wattage, the max wattage, and try to match them as much as possible. Some backups are also good, some spares. in particular. Now, we have more fancy lights over here. You know, you have some strip lights. These can be really good idea is to have these on the inside of a closet. This can be really nice when you're lining up a closet. It's not just for college dorms, it can also be used for your own home closets. Over here we've got our Lutron switches, every different type, depending on the ampage. Notice the little T, that's your 20. When you don't have a T, it's your 15 amp, right, in terms of your outlets over here. So again, you can find nearly everything you want here in the Home Depot, but if you want to go a little further, you're looking at electrical supply. They'll have a little more than in Home Depot, but still, it's a great place to start off with. Now, we have a ton of these things, but just don't put these on until everything else is done. And be very careful. The unbreakable can be definitely worth it, right? I found this the hard way. Yes, the breakable ones are cheaper, but one little thing and then you got to throw it out. Whereas the ones that are nylon, they're a bit more expensive, but you can take them on, put them off, take them on, put them off, and you will be taking them on and off quite a lot when you're doing a lot of renovation. Because you'll think you're done, just when you think you're done, you're never done. It's going to come off, something else has to be fixed, etc. So the ones that are unbreakable definitely cost a few extra cents, definitely well worth it. So take that as a big pro tip.
Pay attention to your town's rental laws for smoke and carbon monoxide detectors.
So up here we have some extra carbon monoxide down in the bottom. You need to have these if you're doing rentals, but also your smoke ones. And these are joint smoke and carbon monoxide up here. Now you got your choice. You can actually have ones that are wired together that remotely will basically set off. So if one goes off, all the others go off in the building. So for someone that's hard of hearing, there's a fire in the kitchen, they're asleep in the bedroom, it's good to have them connected like that. There can be an issue though if you're linking them all with multiple homes, right? If you're looking at, let's say you've got a duplex, triplex, quadplex, and someone upstairs sends them off, yeah, everyone should leave the building. But if there's one that goes off accidentally, then everyone has to leave the building. So it can be kind of two double-edged sword like that. But definitely look into these when you're getting into your multiplexes, small multis especially.
Light fixtures are actually one of my favorite high ROI renovations. When I see a home with poor lights, I see money in my eyes. Look, it's one of the easiest ways of driving up the value of your home, but don't go too wild. Even these hemisphere or boob lights are totally fine for long-term rentals and for non-main areas, unless you're in a high rent area or you're looking at short-term rentals. But if you're looking at kitchen or dining areas, then you got to do more.
Okay, so if we come in here a little bit, I'm going to look at this down here on the floor. So you get various versions of this. Now I like all of these, the 5 light, the 3 light. It depends on the size of, if you've got a massive, I've got one property with a massive kitchen table. I think we did a 5 light, could have been a 3 light, you know, but we've also done properties where we've had the kind of the orbital globe like this one. It looks like a globe. You got like these 2 rings coming around. This is the other one that's hanging. These are like these distressed, essentially, lights. So you have this industrial meets rustic farm with the incandescent as opposed to LED lights. Now, it can be very difficult if you lose the light bulbs because there are certain laws now that you can't replace some of these lights depending on, again, it may change in time. But when I got these first, you could buy the incandescent lights. Because of environmentalism, etc. now they're kind of pushing the LEDs for energy efficiency. But again, Barrington is the one. You can check their brand. Again, you could go for the more kind of steel, the kind of the silver, but you know, if you've done everything, let's say in oil rub bronze for your hardware, you kind of want to match it then for the lighting. And the lighting, the fixtures they're called, another massive big ROI when you're investing in a home. Doesn't cost you that money. Let's say you pay $183 here for this one. You can get a massive discount if you have the Lowe's for Pros on this one. You can get it for you can almost get it half price in certain sales. So watch out for the sales. Absolutely great brand. Yes, it's more expensive than some, but this is a level 2, level 3. This can really show off. When you walk into a kitchen or you walk into a living room, dining room, you get one of these lights, it's like, it just pops. You want it to pop. And this is a cheaper way than spending thousands of dollars on these particular kitchens, is just your lighting. So great little return on investment. You're going to get a big bang for spending on something like this.
You can find a lot at Home Depot and Lowe's, so it's definitely worthwhile getting familiar with each area. I probably owe rent for the amount of hours that I've spent in Lowe's and Home Depot at this point. One small thing that can save you money is not doing too much. Look, one of my homes had gutters, soffits and fascias that would match best with hickory shingle tile. If I changed the roof to a more modern pewter grey, I really think it looks better, but it would have meant that I'd have likely had to replace too much, and it just wasn't worth it. Again, you can check out a lot more in these stores, like their outdoor centers. I absolutely love the toter large gallon bins here too. I've created a free guide for you. It's called the $10,000 Property Playbook. You can click below to download right now. It is packed full of value, including how much you really need to actually get into your first rental property, including 6 ways you can get into it for much less than you'd think. Look, you got the real numbers for costs, how to actually make money with the property, and a rocket fuel strategy to get you started in just 7 days. So let's build wealth one property at a time, and I'll see you in the next one.